Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the lab learning modules. I know I showed you all through there, but these are just highlights to be found. Again, they're going to be found in the Blackboard, as I explained to you. Same thing with the lecture learning modules. The lab book is 101 pages. If you want to print it out, like I said, you can. You don't necessarily need to do that because there's nothing in there that you need to hand in. But you're definitely going to need to refer to it. So download it at least so you can refer to that. So this will be your lab manual. You don't have to buy a lab manual. It goes well with all the lab reports in Blackboard. Make sure you do that lab safety contract. Complete it, sign it, and submit it. Do this by this Monday, the 19th of this month. Make sure it's done. You cannot do any it's required before we start any lab kits. So just get this. Like I said, it feels nice to put an X in a checkbox. Just get this done with the syllabus quiz, with your questionnaire, entering survey questionnaire. Just knock that all out really fast. Feels good to put those X's there. There are 8 lab reports. Some people call them lab assignments. One lab report is broken down into 2 sections, where there's a 5A and a 5B. That's the bones. But there are a total of 8 lab reports, 9 if you want to really break that up. So that's where those are. The lab reports, points on each one will vary, anywhere from 20 to 50 points. It depends on how involved that lab report is. It does count about 4% of your total course grade, and it may involve answering questions that I give you. There might be answering questions from mastering A&P that you need to use, partaking in interactivities of something called Physio X. That's the physiology portion of mastering A&P. All instructions will be in the lab reports themselves. You may need to draw things or label diagrams. You need to take and label, take photos of the dissections and then labeling them. Everything submitted must be in a PDF format. I don't want anything else. I don't want it in a Word document or sheets or anything like that. PDF is that universal format that any computer can actually understand, and it doesn't change the way that what you see at your computer does not change with what I see at my computer. PDF speaks every language there. Okay, so there's no exceptions. It's due on selected days by 8 p.m. You may, and I suggest you submit them multiple times. If you want to ask me if you're doing things correctly, I could take a look at it, glance at it, and I can let you know what's going on. You got to work with it. If you want to submit it, and then you submit it on a Tuesday and it's due on Saturday, and then you want to go back to it and say, oh, I did something wrong. You can do that. I'm going to just grade the last submission closest to the 8 p.m. due date. So you could have 20 submissions in there. I'm going to grade the very last one. Okay. There's an absolute 0 points given to any lab report that's not received by that due date at 8 p.m. No exceptions. If you're late, 0 credit for lateness. Okay, so you'll have roughly a week. Some things are like certain lab reports are 4 days. Most of them are a week. So just make sure nothing's late. About the dissections, there's 2 dissections you're gonna have to do: the sheep brain and the cow eye. Don't dispose of any specimens until I tell you to do so. You might want to refer back to them. I might look at a picture, it's too blurry. You're going to have to redo them for some reason. So don't throw out anything. There's a long laundry list of the structures that you need to identify. You'll find them in the lab reports themselves. You're going to have to take photos of them. Now, the photos, there's going to be some requirements for these photos. First off, you're going to need to get a picture of your face. Okay, so your live face, your photo ID, both next to the dissected specimen. Okay, so I know that you didn't take a dissected specimen from the online library of Google, right? I need to make sure that you're doing this. Okay. All other photos must also include just your full name and the date on paper. Okay, so a little post-it note, a little piece or a business card shaped thing. Just make sure your name and the date is there next to the dissected specimen on every photo after that. You need to make sure you're in a well-lit area, or use a flash when you're needed, okay? Labels that you're going to have to do must be clear. The label names are not blocking what you're trying to show me, all right? You could use, I'm not, I'm sure there's a lot of labeling apps that are out there. You could use those. I have no problems with that. As long as they're pointing to the correct thing, as long as they're not covering so much of your specimen that I can't even orient myself of what you're pointing to, I have no problems with you doing that. Okay. Again, you must submit it as one PDF document only. So put all your pictures, your photos, in a Word document, organize it, label it, whatever you have to do, and then save it as a PDF file. And then that's what you're going to submit me. Okay. Any other document files will be counted as a zero, because I'm not going to, sometimes I'll see a picture where it's half the pictures on one page and half the pictures on the other page. And I got to look, no, I need to be able to see these correctly. Okay. So attach all the photos to one attachment. Okay, so mastering A&P. We're on page 27 now. Okay. Many lab exercises and lab reports utilize this. Again, you're going to follow the lab guidebook. Register this today. The instructions are found in the syllabus folder of Blackboard. The way you do this, here's a step-by-step, all right, basically of how you're going to do this. But again, everything is written in that document in the syllabus folder. You're going to open Mastering A&P within the Blackboard course. Don't go outside. Don't go to this Mastering A&P. No, no. You only go there if you have questions. But I want you to actually register it within the Blackboard course. If you're watching this video before day number 1, unfortunately, you can't register for this until day 1 when Blackboard opens. So you're going to open that, select any of the icons. You'll see one called Study Area. Go right there. It'll open up a new window for you, and you're going to be able to create an account. Or if this is your second time taking A&P 1, then you could just log on with your registered account already. Here you can either purchase an access code or use the access code that you use from the bookstore or from for the first time you took it. Okay. If the access code is expired, again, you're going to have to repurchase a new one. And if it expires in a month from now, you're going to have to repurchase it. So make sure you know when that expiration date is. All right. If it asks you for a course ID, it's telling me that you did not go through Blackboard to do this, that you went to some other website to do this. So if you're asking for a course code or course ID, please don't ask me for one, because I don't have one. It's in the Mastering A&P is integrated into Blackboard, so there is no course ID. Okay. And then after you do all this, go to select Go to My Course, and then you can start navigating into Mastering A&P, and you can see all the wonderful things that are in there. Okay. If you enter the study area, that's where you're going to see your e-text if you purchased it. The Practice Anatomy Lab, sometimes referred to it as PAL. You're going to see there, you're going to see diagrams, models, histology. Practice lab exams will be on there. Any activities for the physiology portion, PhysioX is on there also. And there's a wonderful thing about something called interactive physiology. I find this a very, very good supplemental understanding of many of the physiology stuff. So you might want to also visit that also. So the study area is where you're going to be probably spending a lot of time with Mastering A&P. Okay, so let's talk about discussion boards. So we're on page 28 now, and I'm going to discuss now 28 to page 32 about discussion boards. So this is an online interaction with your classmates and with me, okay? There are 2 parts to each discussion board. There's something called a primary post. This is where you create the first part of this, okay? You're going to create something called a message for others to read. Then there's also something called a secondary post. And a secondary post is responding to either a primary post of someone else's that created someone else's primary post, or you're going to respond to someone else's secondary post. So what you're developing here is sort of what we call a thread, right? You're threading this from a primary to a secondary to almost like this threading going on. And that's what that is. So one comment leads to another, this threading. All right. Each student must post at least one of each of these to get full credit. Okay. There's 4 discussion boards in here. Instructions to open and submit the discussion boards are found in pages 28 to 32. So I'm not going to go into details about that. All right. You'll find the discussion boards, as I showed you on Blackboard, in the assessments folder. All the primary and secondary posts are due 8 p.m. on selected due dates. No partial credit for lateness, no exceptions. Okay. Discussion board number 1, I'm using DB as discussion board. Discussion board number 1 is really an easy one. It's really about introducing yourself. The required criteria is found in the discussion board itself or in the syllabus. Things about, what are your hobbies, what's your major, what's your name, what are you concerned about with an online course, that kind of stuff. The primary post is due this Saturday, the 17th, by 8 p.m. The secondary post is due on Monday by 8 p.m. Okay. This is worth 1% of your grade, so you have to do this. 6 points is for the primary post because there's a lot of criteria for you to do, and 4 points for the secondary post. Just be mindful about the secondary posts. Put some meat in there. Put at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 sentences of, talk to your classmate about his or her primary post. Don't just say things like, sounds interesting, I like to hike also, period, and that's it. I want a little bit of meat in there, okay? Otherwise, you're not going to get the points on there. I'm also going to grade on grammar and spelling, so make sure you spell and use grammar properly, okay? Now, discussion boards 2, 3, and 4 are very similar to each other, so I'm going to group it together over here. Each discussion board of 2, 3, and 4 pertains to lecture exam 1, 2, and 3, respectively. Okay. The required criteria is found in both the discussion board itself and in the syllabus. Each of these discussion boards are worth 2% of your grade. So it's 6% right here with 2, 3, and 4. Okay. The primary post, I'm going to keep it short but sweet. The primary post includes you have to share a weakness of a specific topic. Can't just say, neurology is a weakness for me. Well, you got to be much more specific than that. Okay. So you got to share a weakness and also a strength. Okay. Describe the topic for each and why it is a weakness or strength. Create a multiple choice question with 5 choices for each. And that's what you're going to have to do for the primary post. This has got to have a lot of meat in it. If it's your strength, you should be able to explain why this has become a strength for you. Explain about a certain mnemonic you came up with, a certain chart. Share some notes. You could always put a chart that you created. You could also upload that and embed that into the thread itself. So you could do different things, but don't just put one sentence as a strength because I'm an LPN and I know a little bit about this. That's not real. Go more into it. Try and help out your classmates on how you can make it a little bit easier for them if it is a weakness for them. Okay. Uh, and with a weakness, make sure that you should know a little bit about it. Why is it a weakness? What is making it confusing for you? Say what you do know, but then what don't you know, or what is confusing about it? Don't make these very short. These should be paragraph forms, okay? And you got to make up those questions also. The secondary post is that you have to address a classmate's weakness and explain how to make that topic better to understand. Be careful not to confuse the student any further. Explain why, a new mnemonic, a new that you came up with, why this is strong for you, and how you can tutor that student over there on how to make it better. You got to be able to do that. The other thing that you should also do is that you need to be able to answer one of the questions that your classmate posed. Okay. Now I want you to also explain not why B is correct. I want you to also explain why A, C, D, E are incorrect. You have to put that all down. I'll be looking for those kinds of things in your post, and I'll be grading it accordingly. Okay. But again, all of this is explained in the discussion board itself and in pages 28 to 32 of your PowerPoint. Okay. Good examples are also found in the syllabus of what I might expect you to do. You'll see that in the syllabus itself. I also put the rubric grading method, and that's on page 30 of the syllabus, but you also see it in this in Blackboard. You can see what that is, and that's how I'm going to grade everything. All right. Be careful of using netiquette. Netiquette is a fancy hybrid of the word internet and etiquette. Be mindful of how you type your comments, what you say in the discussion board. Avoid rude tones. For instance, all caps are inferred that you're yelling at the person. So I put some things in there. Read them. They're on page 32 of the syllabus. Um, don't post any don't post any messages that are irrelevant to the discussion thread. Don't say things, I just got back from my grandmother's place. It was a wonderful place. So, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about in terms of, let's say, neurology, right? So just stay with the topic and you'll be fine, okay? So like I said, the guidelines of netiquette is going to be on page 32. I have to step out of character here, and I do have to say this. Students that do not respect fellow classmates will be removed from the course, will fail the course, and will be reported to the chairperson, dean, etc., as this violates the academic conduct code. I've never done this before, but we have to make everyone feel comfortable. So make sure you do read the list of netiquette rules on page 32. They're pretty much it's common sense, but do make sure you do those things on there. Okay. And again, I am going to be grading on content, spelling, proper grammar, all of that will be graded. So make sure you do this. You can actually type in your post and then save it as a draft. And you could come back to it another day or so. And then once you submit it, it gets posted and we see it on there. So save it as a draft. You can always come back to it. Okay, it's not a problem. So one thing I want to get before we go into that page, I want to mention on page 33, you could also look at in color-coded form. Um, all the assessments that are going to be due for this course are listed on there. Okay, I put it in chronological order of due date. It's pretty much all there except for the discussion. Yeah, except for the discussion uh, posts, the or discussion boards. But everything is on there. Again, it's also the material. It's similar to what you're going to see on the course calendar. Um, yeah, it's actually the same material that you see on course calendar, but the course calendar has a little bit more detail in it. But it's there. So I just put it there and on one sheet. You could put it on there so you could see it too. Okay. So now on the top of page 34, you're seeing this kind of material. This is basically how our point distribution is going to take place. For instance, the syllabus is 1%. Now the points over here, you can just see how they're weighted, but the adjusted weights are what's more concerning for you. This material above the green line is lecture material. The stuff below the green line is going to be lab material. So you'll see where everything is here. Keep in mind the final exam is 19% of your total course grade, okay? But all this adds up to 100 percentage points. Keep in mind that lecture is going to be worth 75% of your grade, whereas lab is going to be worth 25%. And we have that bonus quiz that's going to be important to add. If you get all of it correct, then I will raise your lecture exams, not the final exam, but your lecture exams will be raised 2 percentage points more, okay, for each one. All right, so that's what's going on over there. Okay, Blackboard, we've gone through that, but just to summarize what you're going to find on Blackboard, you'll see my syllabus, you'll see the announcements on there. Contact me. I can't overemphasize that enough. Make sure you contact me at Blackboard Mail, the inbox over there. That's where I contact you. That's where you contact me. Get conditioned, and that's where you're going to be doing that. All my PowerPoints are on there. All the lab material is on there. All the web links to my recorded video lectures are on there also. Um, I want to also mention now about the review questions. Okay, that's on page 35 of the syllabus. Make sure you do these when you feel like you could take the exam on that particular, that quiz or that exam on that particular chapter. Do the review questions. Just to reiterate on some things, there's no answer keys. All the answers are found on my PowerPoints and video lectures. If you have questions about them, again, you will see a special note on page 35 of the syllabus, and I explain how, if you prove to me that you've gone through it, I will guide you, but I won't give you the answer to it. Usually the students are fine with that. Do the questions at your own pace, and then meet with one or two other classmates. There's many benefits about doing these review questions. Again, it acts like a study guide. Make notes on them. It makes sure that you hit the highlighted material. If there's material on the review questions that is not on your notes that you took from the video lectures, make sure you add that information into your notes, and then gradually you'll get better and better and better at doing note taking for courses in general. It's a good representation of my exam questions. If you can't do those questions and you're getting them all wrong, then you're not ready for the lecture quiz, let alone the lecture exam. Those are the types of questions that you're going to see on the lecture quizzes and exams. And then keep in mind that 20 to 25% of these questions will appear on my exams. So keep alert of that. Okay. Class cancellations, I mean, there's really no cancellations per se. Weather, power outage, that kind of stuff. We're doing it online. The best way, if you are taking courses that are online, I'm sorry, in person, then the best way is to do the rave. You'll find it someplace at the CCM website. And what that is that if there's a course cancellation or a delayed opening or something of that nature, they're going, and it's like a snow day or something like that, they're going to send a umbrella email to all the emails that are interacted with rave, and everyone gets the same email. So it's a little thing like that, or voicemail, whichever. I'm not going to cancel, so disregard this last part over here. Academic integrity. Just don't cheat. Just don't do it. It is not worth it. Believe me, I've been in situations where the student is looking down and they're looking at the answers, or they're taking the test. Just last semester, they were taking a test and someone was giving answers to them. And they're like saying, "Oh, so the answer's not that? Okay." And you could hear the other person. So I would show them the video and they just accept it. Yes, I cheated on it. Let's just move forward. Exactly. So just don't do it. It is not worth it. You'll get a 0 on that exam, and chances are it'll go higher and higher in the administration. Okay. So the last page, there's a few other things on there about attendance, dropping a course, withdrawing. It's self-explanatory. You can read that on your own. But I do want to mention a couple other dates on the last page, 37. September 27th is the last day to drop this course without a grade. So it doesn't even show up on your transcript. So if you are looking at this whole syllabus and it's just too overwhelming to take at this particular time because you have other things that are going on, whether your work is not going to be conducive with this, or you've taken 3 other courses and they're too demanding, that it's okay. Just drop the course, and it doesn't show up in transcript, and you get your full amount back. So there's that. Also, I want to mention that November 28th is the last day to withdraw. That means that it does show up on your transcript. However, it shows up as a W. It does not affect your GPA. I will give you alerts as these dates get closer and closer. But I do want to mention that these are two important dates that you should know on your course calendar or your calendar for that matter. Okay. So last thing I just want to say is remember, you've heard this saying before: live like you're going to die tomorrow, right? But my teaching philosophy is learn like you're going to live forever. You are going to learn this stuff, and you're here to be you're here not to be taught. You're here to learn. You're here, don't worry about what's going to be on the exam or how many questions are going to be on exam on this topic. Worry about how you're going to use this in your future. And then I promise you, the test will fall into place. Okay. So let me just switch back. Um, there, okay. I just want to, again, just welcome you all to Anatomy and Physiology 1. We're going to learn so much for this course. It is accelerated. Don't let that be a discouragement for you. When we go from 15 weeks to 13 weeks, yes, it is somewhat accelerated, but the acceleration is going to happen pretty much after Thanksgiving because of Thanksgiving and because the 13 weeks. But I think if you come up with a daily routine that's happening, maybe spend anywhere between 3 to 4, yeah, probably 3 to 4 hours. You probably need like 2 to 3 hours of lecture a day, 2 to 3 hours of lab a day. If you do like about 6 hours a day, you'll be fine. You're looking at anywhere on a week's time. I hope I did the math correct on this, but I think if you spend 20 to 25 hours a week, you should be fine. Now, keep in mind that 20 to 25 hours a week, that doesn't mean just watching a video. You're doing questions. You're doing looking at YouTube videos. You're doing a lot of other things. You're meeting with a student. So it's a variety of things, making a chart, that kind of stuff. But use the quizzes as your checkpoints. I will be emailing you every Sunday. With the exception of the first week, we start on a Wednesday. But I will email you every Sunday, at least twice, because I'll give you one email for lecture and one email for lab. And then I will definitely give you a few emails throughout the week as reminders or checkpoints. Usually I use Thursdays as checkpoints where you should be at this particular point. And then usually a reminder on Saturday. I usually email you quite a bit. I don't think you're going to have an online teacher as much integrated as much as I am. If you email me, I will email you back within 24 hours, usually 8 to 10 hours, but depends. If you email me, let's say 11 o'clock at night, I might be sleeping. But I'm there for helping you, and we can always do a Zoom session. I'm looking forward to this. I've taught this online course many times already, so I am really used to doing this. Email me if we can't do anything through an email. I will set up a Zoom session and we could talk that way. Hopefully, you're understanding I'm more of a down-to-earth person, and it's more about the material itself being so demanding. A&P. I mean, you've heard the stories. It's going to be probably the toughest course you've ever taken, but it's also going to be the most fascinating course you've ever taken. You're going to learn so much about it, not just that, but test taking strategies, study skills. Make sure you utilize the free tutoring that we have on campus. There's remote tutoring that we have on Fridays. Yes, you could do that too. So again, from the three of us to you, welcome and looking forward to it. All right. Bye bye for now.